everybody.
Here is your podcast, Sex, Drugs, and Opera for May 16th, 2020. How the fuck you doing, people?
You stole it. You done stole it.
I got it.
Yes, this is episode 11 for those of you keeping track. Hope you're doing fine on this lovely Saturday for you, I guess. Oh, whatever the fuck you listen to this. You're in control of your own life. You do whatever you want.
Do what you want.
So, Mike, how you doing, man? Mike's breaking in a new pair of tennis shoes today, for all you guys wondering at home. So he's got shoes on in the studio.
I got bloody feet, and I almost never wear tennis shoes, dude.
Yeah?
I don't know what it is. I don't feel quite like myself. I wear tennis shoes if I'm doing some sport or whatever.
Yeah.
Other than that, I got a nice, comfy pair of boat shoes to just fit my feet perfectly, right?
You're obviously not... You have no fear of being chased by the police randomly.
Dude, I can run in boat shoes.
Can you?
I can fucking run in boat shoes.
Privilege.
No, come on. Seriously. When they fit your... So you're
Yeah,
buying...
I know.
Which is another reason why I fucking suck at buying shoes, right? So I bought my shoes.
Yeah.
And I took them home. I showed my wife that. She said, "Why are they so small?" And I'm like, yeah, now that you mention it, they are really small. It's because boat shoes, when you do it, you got to buy them so they're tight, and then they like form to your foot, right?
Yeah, but are you wearing socks in boat shoes?
Yeah. Thin
I
socks,
could never figure it out, man. I could never figure out the boat shoes. I tried when I lived in South Carolina because it was obviously the style, but I could never do it.
I'm not trying to be a pretentious dick about it or anything like that. I just like them better, you know. And they can be casual or they can be kind of not casual. I mean, they can be in between both worlds. And if you're in the opera world,
yeah,
sometimes if there's an important rehearsal or something, you don't want to show up looking like a dick.
No, man, I used to think that, like, when I got, like, older and I was, like, working at a theater, I could, like, start wearing, like, pajama pants to rehearsal or something like that. And, like, even though you could, theoretically you could, I guess.
I did it once, and they looked at me like I had 5 dicks.
Yeah, but you just never know who's going to be there. I mean, I think I told the story on the show once where I was in Oldenburg, and I was going to audition in Dusseldorf for an agent.
Nice.
And I was in the Bahnhof, like, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go. I was in the train station. I was like, I'm going to go a day early, shave, shower, do my ritual, and then go strong in the audition. So I'm sitting there looking like a fucking hobo. And, of course, who walks by? The fucking agent, because he had just been in Oldenburg for a premiere that day, and he's like, "Hey, Jared, right? We got a show tomorrow." I'm sitting there like with a half-eaten McDonald's burger, beard, just looking like a goddamn bum, you know? And ever since then, I was like, man, you gotta be ready for whatever. You never know who you're gonna run into, especially a rehearsal. If someone important is gonna walk into the room, it's gonna be at a fucking rehearsal.
That's what I mean. And you don't have to have like fucking, how do you say luxury?
Yeah, like dress shoes or something like that.
Patent leather shoes on or anything like that. You know, you don't have to shine them every time. But I don't know. My old stinky fucking.
Some people take it too far, man. I don't know where you guys get all your scarves. And why
don't do that. I'm not talking about being scarvy or anything like that. I'm just saying that boat shoes, they're kind of in between.
Yeah.
And if the police chase you, then you can run.
Yeah. Well, if you wear boat shoes, you're probably not getting chased by the police. But like,
that's true. That's not. It's not a genuine problem.
Open question to all you sopranos out there. Where the hell are you guys all getting your ukuleles? Why do so many...
What the fuck? I know.
Who started it? Where are you all buying them? Like, and why is it only a particular fach? Have you seen any countertenor ukuleles going on?
No.
Tenor ukuleles?
Really. I've seen tenor ukuleles. But not American ukuleles. Tenor ukuleles.
Okay.
No, bass and a ukulele, I think, is a pretty.
That's what I think.
Ridiculous
I think the further apart the harmonies get, I think your voice can't be that far under.
You can't be like pring pring pring.
Somewhere over the rainbow. I like how you chose Somewhere Over the Rainbow, dude.
Well, because I think the ukulele craze started with that guy, and which, by the way, is, in my opinion, one of the greatest songs ever recorded.
That version.
That version of that song it's charming and somehow disarming.
Every time I hear it. Every time I hear it on the radio, I never skip it. You know what I mean? Like, you're like flipping through the channels. That one comes on. I listen to it every time.
But now, you're absolutely right about the fucking soprano craze. I can't believe I never thought to mention it on here. But it's always the same shot, too. Like, the ukulele, the bottom fifth or sixth of it is like out of the camera.
Yeah.
And the girl's got like a cotton tank top on.
Oh yeah, you got to match. You got to match.
Her chin is kind of up. You got the fringy, the fringy. And then her chin goes up. Her chin goes up as she sings, and it's always ha.
Yeah.
Fringy, right?
Yeah. And then the staring into your soul while smiling during the mirror.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Who did it first? You need to be suing all these other people
Fucking
for copyright
The
infringement.
staring and the smiling.
And I'm sitting on the toilet, just just taking this in. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? That's the thing is when people put
You're like, oh, that's nice. Back to Pornhub.
Am I the only person that when I put shit on the internet, I think about like the context in which people will be viewing it?
Look, that's actually
Don't you want to
incredible.
control? Don't you want to control the context?
You can't.
Yeah, I know.
But that's actually quite insightful, Jared.
Yeah.
Okay. So in opera, you control basically the only thing that
that's
you
the beauty
can't-
about live music, about live performing, is you can control a lot of times.
That's true.
How
I mean,
people consume
the only
it.
thing you can't control is the mental state of the person that is consuming the music, right?
Right, of course.
But if you put something out on Instagram, you're absolutely right. You are in the middle of pinching a loaf, and somebody comes on and wants to touch you emotionally.
Yeah.
I'm not in the. That's why so much of it is comedy. Comedy you can basically consume anywhere.
Yeah.
But like a soul-wrenching ukulele and this soprano looking at me like she cares about my problems is not.
But in general,
so
I think that's why dramatic things don't do as well on the internet, because you can't. People usually aren't. They're on the bus. You know what I mean? They're like at work. They're on a lunch break. They're having a cigarette. They're taking a shit, and then you're gonna try to touch them with this tear-jerking video. They don't want it.
Good point, dude. That's a really, really good point.
Control, I guess the best chance you would have is if you put it as an advertisement in the middle of something that's longer and more serious, so they're already invested in it. So you can kind of like predict that they would already be in the mindset.
But then you need time.
You know what I mean?
If you're putting it in the middle of something, then you need a time investment, which most people who
drama
are on the
takes
move,
a time investment.
That's what I mean.
You can't be immediately like, dramatic, but you can be immediately funny. You can get hit in the nuts, and then it's like it's funny, but if you snap to it, I'm like, why, Yulia, why?
That's absolutely true, dude.
It's not. You need the journey.
You just pinpointed a lot of shit that are absolute truths about art, and truths that a lot of people don't seem to be taken so seriously. It's why none of the mini operas so far have been dramatic.
Yeah, because, I mean, you can't, the internet, because oddly enough, because you can't control when and how people are consuming it, then it's very hard. Because we talked, I think on the podcast, I can't remember if it was a main podcast or a secret sponsor one, but we talked about like doing like Tosca in a bar or something like that. Do you remember we had a conversation about that? And we talked about how it's like very hard because someone would like talk or burp during a serious moment, like during Bisi Date, and they'd pull you out of it.
Yeah, which I was always on the side of, fuck it, let people drink and whatever.
If you're trying to have a good time.
True.
But if you're trying to touch people, like if you wanted people to cry at your performance, I'm guessing you wouldn't put it in a noisy bar.
No.
You ever touch someone during it? I mean, sometimes you can shut people up, and it makes it more special
You should normally ask permission before you touch people.
Yeah. And as singers, we don't.
We don't. Dude, we're talking about getting back up and running in some productions, and
things out here are kind of starting up
literally
at the
talking
theater.
about 6 feet distance between all of the singers at all times.
Well, like during shows.
During shows.
Until when?
I don't know, I heard till December.
Wow.
Which means that big shows, like Turandot was supposed to come back.
Yeah.
And they're not exactly sure that it can.
Yeah.
Because there are 1 trillion people on stage. 1 trillion is definitely an exaggeration.
You know what's funny, though, is about some of these things, like Bohème, for instance, it's like, if people really are sick, like, you would actually keep distance, I don't know how contagious tuberculosis is. I have no idea.
Dude, does tuberculosis even still fucking exist?
No, but back then in Bohème, isn't that what Mimi died of in Bohème? Wasn't it tuberculosis? Wasn't
I guess.
it TB?
Yeah, that's a good follow-up.
But can you cough tuberculosis?
I don't know.
I don't know. But like the point is if everyone's 6 feet apart, as dramatically boring as that might be, it actually might be more accurate to what people would do in that situation.
Oh my God, not a bad idea.
Do all the sick operas.
Idea.
There's so many operas of people dying from tuberculosis. That's a free idea. You guys can have that one for free. Just do all the sick operas and put it in a hospital. Okay, done.
Seriously, dude.
Put them all in a hospital.
Social distance from Mimi, right?
Mimi too.
They get her that thing. They call it a muff. Right?
Yeah.
I know. I've always chuckled whenever they're like, "Hey, go get her a muff," right? but you give it to her, but they can't give it to her. So
Right.
I don't know whether it would be funnier to after Colina goes and sells his jacket and gets the muff.
Yeah.
If he walks in the room and like tosses it to her.
Yeah.
Or if he takes an unusual and awkward amount of time to construct some sort of device to somehow like wheel it over to her or something.
I think it'd be good to have like those like
Or shuffleboard it with
the reacher grabbers, you know?
Yeah.
Those things, and just see how dramatic they can do. But like the kind you get at the dollar store that have like a dinosaur head. Like, you know, like the pterodactyl just giving her a muff. And see if you can still make people cry.
There are
all
all
the
kinds of. If
ridiculousness.
you can make people cry that way, then you're a fucking artist.
Yeah.
Then you're an artist.
Well, and that's the thing is if you look at like I was watching a lot of Key and Peele sketches, and you guys got to watch those. And what makes it so funny is they're in these ridiculous situations and still giving dramatic performances.
Yeah.
Like I watched this one where they're tickling, and then he like touches his dick, and he's like, "You touch my dick." And it's like, you know,
yeah. Totally.
And it's like you're saying these. That's a hard acting thing when you're saying something ridiculous, but you have to cry through it.
Yeah, totally.
And I see that in Hollywood a lot where they're like, but why would you? And then they say some ridiculous thing like, why would you leave the dildo in the rain? And like you have to say something ridiculous, but
Takes
actually
an actor.
cry.
Takes a real fucking actor.
That's hard.
Dude, I'll tell you what would also be funny is seeing something like if you got to try to kill somebody, and normally they're trying to kill somebody with like a fucking knife or something, but then you got to come up with like the Queen of the Night gives Pamina the knife with one of those fucking grabby things.
Out.
And then she's either throwing the knife at fucking Zarastro or like putting it on the end of some sort of pole.
Yeah. No, that's good shit. And I mean, like, if you take it, like, I mean, you could do a magic flute because it's serious, like it's silly, I guess. But yeah, just to add some silly thing into it would be fucking hard. But Queen of the Night, man, that's something worth diving into. I tell you, because. That's Magic Flute is an opera. Everyone has such a huge fucking boner for Magic Flute.
Yeah.
And I do get it to some extent, but there's part of me that doesn't really get it.
Yeah, totally.
Because there's lots of characters in Magic Flute. You know, you have Tamino, you have Papageno, you have Zarastro and all this stuff. And a lot of them are actually really one-dimensional.
Yeah.
You know,
Tamino's one-dimensional as fuck.
He doesn't do a single thing wrong. He's just the noble hero. Like... You know,
Zarastro is the least interesting of all of them.
All of them, speaker, armored men.
Monostatos is an
Papageno.
interesting person. Monostatos is interesting because he actually talk about interesting. I mean, he brings up race in it for God's sake. He's like, am I not of flesh and blood because I'm black?
Yeah.
Right? And he's interesting. But I'll tell you what, the Queen of the Night, I think, has gotten a real bad fucking rap.
Okay.
A bad fucking rap.
I mean, it's
and I'll tell you,
yeah.
I will gladly be her defense attorney in this fucking trial.
Okay.
Because I don't think she's as bad as everybody says she is.
Okay, I'll have to hear your arguments. I'm not sure what side of the fence I'm on, but maybe by the end of today, I'll have an opinion. But she's definitely, I think, one of the more interesting characters. I would say her, Papageno, are of course top two interesting characters in that thing.
Papageno's not as interesting as Monostatos, I don't think.
Well, they're definitely top three then.
Okay.
Because what makes Papageno interesting is he does have some development.
That's true.
Know, he's a coward. He's suicidal at one point. He's searching for a woman. It's like he's sometimes brave. Like he like saves people. Like he actually has a lot of character stuff. And actually, Mike and I'll take the moment now to plug it on the next podcast. Mike and I actually decided last night that we were going to jam on types of characters in general. Because we haven't hit on that yet. Protagonist, antagonist, round characters.
You mean next podcast as in the secret sponsor podcast?
Yeah, sorry. The secret sponsor podcast will record this. So we're going to skip over some of that stuff now during this conversation, but we're going to dive into it in the next podcast. So if you're interested in hearing us talk about that, then hit us up on Patreon. But yeah, Queen of the Night, I think, is definitely one of the most interesting characters in Magic Flute for a lot of reasons, but also historically when this was written, having a woman and stuff like that, there's lots of reasons why it's worth having a conversation about Queen of the Night.
Yeah, totally.
Sure. So you say that she is not all bad.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. So before you dive into it, for those of you that haven't seen Magic Flute recently, like the most brief way you could sum up her character is the first time you see her, we're not even sure she's bad. Right?
Right.
She just says, like, I want you to save my daughter. And she gives him a photo. Right? And then you have him sing this thing. And she even, like, her maids and stuff, they gives her, like, flutes and, like, the magic bells and stuff to help on this journey. So you could think she's good.
But what? Okay, yes, you could think she's good. What makes you think she's bad besides the word of Sarastro?
Well, at that point in the opera, to go chronologically, at that point in the opera, you have no reason to think she's bad. These three women also saved him from a snake, so you have every reason to think she's good.
Right.
And then once Zarastro says she's bad, then you're like, because Zarastro also, everyone I talk to that's seen Magic Flute, they're always like, Zarastro always gives me kind of like a vibe, like he's not that good of guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you always think like, hold on, that's fine, okay. My computer reboots sometimes, I tell you.
Oh,
let me drag this over. We're good. Anyway, like Zarastro, he's supposed to be the best guy in the fucking show, but every time I see Magic Flute, I'm like, I just have a feeling like he's a bad dude.
Dude, he's a cult leader.
I know. So anyway, just to wrap up what I'm saying is then he's talks shit about Queen of the Night, and then she comes out and you have the whole like, here's a knife, I want you to fucking commit murder. And then that's where you kind of, most people decide, she's kind of bad. So for those of you that don't know Magic Flute, that's the basic character arc. You know, it's like, who is this woman? Oh, I heard she's bad, and then you see her do kind of a bad thing. Just for if you haven't seen the Magic Flute, that's what we're talking about today.
Look, obviously, murder, most people would say, is a bad thing, right?
Yeah, sure.
But if we're going to be completely honest, it is all depending on who is getting murdered. Oftentimes, we see murder as a good thing. Do you think people were definitely okay with murdering Hitler? People were okay with murdering bad people.
Yeah, go on Facebook and just look at comments. Most people are okay with murdering certain people.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
they ask for it.
Exactly. They say they ask for it, right? Now, my question is, we take that she is bad just on this guy's word with basically nothing else. And I gotta say, he basically just says, she's a woman. Don't trust women.
Yeah.
Don't fucking do that. And I'm like, wait, whoa, fucking wait. Later she comes back and it comes down to you can't trust women with the power of the magic orb or something like that. And I'm like, fucking why?
Yeah.
It seems to me that that the Queen of the Night actually had a legitimate claim to power in that fucking opera, and it was just because of this guy's fucking whim.
Yeah.
And not based on, we've not gotten any other information on what she did to not deserve that power. And by the way, we have fucking Sarastro taking people like Monostatos and like whipping his feet for God's sake.
Yeah, that's true. That's
what?
true. Yeah, it is fucked up. And it's like Magic Flute has one of the like biggest implied backstories ever. And every time I hear Magic Flute, I'm like, I think the prequel is actually more interesting than this. You know what I mean? Because I spent an embarrassing amount of time thinking that Zarastro was Queen of the Night's husband, right?
Right.
I would say, like, for the first 3 years I knew Magic Flute existed. I was like, oh, that's her husband, and I guess they had a fight. But, of course, the whole deal is that her husband was, like, King of the Sun, basically, and she was, like, Queen of the Night, you know? And then when he died, he basically gave it to Zarastro, and she feels entitled to that power.
Right, because her husband said you can't trust a woman with this kind of power, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, all right, little fucking sexist or a lot fucking sexist. And secondly, it seems like perhaps maybe oftentimes the people in power are the ones who come up with the story as to why they have the fucking power, but they're really usurpers.
Yeah.
So I'm saying it's not impossible that fucking Zarastro is a usurper of that power. You know, and by the way, I said he whipped Monostatos' feet, and for what? Some people say that Zarastro was trying to rape Pamina, which...
Zarastro?
No, not Zarastro. Monostatos.
I was like, what version is that, man?
No,
Jesus
Monostatos,
Christ.
I meant.
Okay.
So, okay, that's not fucking good either.
Yeah.
Monostatos isn't a completely...
Nobody says he's a good dude.
He's not a completely good dude. He in his aria, though,
Yeah.
you feel sympathy for him because he says,
Yeah,
I'm a
fucked up.
slave. I get nothing.
Which,
right?
again, makes him more interesting than some of these other flat characters.
Exactly.
Is that he has conflict. And the best villains and stuff like that are people where you're like, I kind of get it. And Queen of the Night definitely has those qualities.
Yeah, but tell me what makes her bad.
Well, I mean, just superficially, it's the fact that she... wants to murder somebody. But I didn't say she was bad. I'm just saying she is manipulative. She is manipulative. You can't argue that. You know, when she sings Otsitrenich, this first thing she sings, she's really manipulating Tamino to do what she wants for him, for her, you know? And then when she sings her next aria to Pamina, again, then she's really manipulating her into like murdering. Like, why can't she murder Zoroaster? Why can't the Queen of the Night do it? She's in the fucking temple.
She's
obviously more capable. Why does she have to manipulate these like lame ass people to do it for her? And then when it's a big happy ending, she comes in like at the wedding is like, fuck this shit. Like,
now wait a minute. Whoa. Okay, so again,
she doesn't seem to be doing it for Pamina, because at the beginning you believe that she's going after Pamina, but then she's standing there with Pamina, and it's like
she could take her away.
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah.
And so it's like then you realize it doesn't seem to be about Pamina at all. It seems to actually be about killing Zoroaster, and it seems to be that she doesn't want to get her hands dirty.
Yeah, or she knows that Pamina is going to be near Zoroaster.
Yeah.
And already has the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, no,
now,
true.
And if in her mind,
right,
Zoroaster is a dangerous leader. Which, by the way, every production I've ever seen looks like this cult of the sun is just that, a cult with a supreme leader. Period. I know they like do this voting bullshit and everything. You can't tell me that Zoroaster isn't just. If he can just have somebody on the whim be tortured, you can't tell me he's not a bit of a fucking dictator.
No, it's true. That's true. They should do a fucking Tiger King version of this show. But like that's that's what makes her character so interesting, though, is that it is so conflicted, because I do see a lot of strength in her, especially being a woman, especially at that time, in that she feels like she has a claim to something. You know what I mean? She's like, I like this is my right, and I will fight for it. I will fight against all you oppressors and shit like that.
Exactly. Like,
there is strength, and you do support that to some extent.
I mean, she's indignant, but why is she indignant? Before she talks to, it depends on which text you listen to. A lot of people leave the text out before her second angry aria. De Hölle Rache.
Yeah, sure.
Rache.
Yeah.
I still am in between as an American doing the rrr in the back of my throat like Germans do, or rrr with my tongue. So when I say der Hölle Rache, right? It sounds that, and I think Americans might think, "What the fuck is he doing?" But that's how Germans say it in the back of their throat, and not with the front. Except if you go into like Bayern or something, a lot of them will do with their
der Hölle Rache.
Der Hölle Rache. Rachel, der Hölle Rache.
Der Hölle Rache.
Anyway, what was I going to say about that? Oh,
well,
in that text right beforehand, they'll leave a lot of it out, just saying you go and kill him. But there is where she describes that she was basically slighted out of the power by her husband.
It's true. But she also does say, and I don't know if it's manipulative or not, but in that cut text, she does say something like, and women are not capable of, women's minds are not capable of understanding the complexity of such issues.
Right.
You know what I mean? She does, and so it's like she either in some way supports the system, or in some way is using that as a manipulative thing for Pamina.
Or there was a person writing it who decided that a woman also agrees that their minds aren't complex enough to understand these complex issues.
You know, it's interesting to have a little bit of context for when this was written, because, of course, Mozart was born in 1756, and a lot of people forget that Thomas Jefferson is older than Mozart.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, like, Thomas Jefferson was born first. He's like 13 years older than Mozart.
Right.
And even though I know that information, there's some sort of, like, in my mind, I still feel like he happened much later. But Mozart happened during, like after George Washington and shit, you know what I mean? And this is during the Age of Enlightenment.
So Benjamin Franklin was way older than Mozart, actually.
Which is somehow crazy to think about.
Benjamin Franklin invented an instrument called the glass harmonica, right?
Okay.
And have you ever seen it before?
Yeah, a long time ago.
It's basically lead glass bowls that are nested within each other on a pole.
Yeah.
And then you spin it kind of like a sewing machine with your foot. And then there's a little thing of water, and then you play it.
Oh yeah, I've seen
by rubbing your
That's a cool
fingers
sound.
on it. Mozart wrote a piece for it.
That's crazy.
Mozart wrote a piece.
That's a good tidbit, man.
Benjamin Franklin's machine. Now, I'll tell you another thing though, that people started dying from it. Do you know why?
Why?
Lead poisoning from the lead glass. But what they said was that it created such a magical sound that it would drive people crazy. And they thought that it was just the sound of the glass harmonica, but it was actually lead fucking poisoning.
That's funny. I mean, I guess, yeah, like you'd be like, every time people like play this thing for too long, they go crazy, you know? And you would assume it's the music. Thomas Jefferson was also like a real musical guy, but I'm not going to get you started on that. I know you got
I could talk all fucking day about that.
Not a bad podcast idea, though. I'm writing it down, man. Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin as musicians, right? I'm writing it down on the table. Anyway, just I'm going to talk to this, the Age of Enlightenment. And so Mozart was, of course, one of these like Freemasons and shit. I think most people know that. And he belonged to these types of groups.
Right.
And Enlightenment at the time was like everyone, of course, was meeting in the salons and trying to be intelligent and shit. And elite women, noble women had access to this, and there was support in them doing this. But by no means was an average woman like attending this type of stuff, and like it wasn't a normal thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just like when you see Queen of the Night, like she's a queen. So a queen, like I think there was cultural support for like a queen, like going after this intelligence and stuff like that. But someone a bit more, was it like not noble, like normal? I don't know the opposite of noble. Maybe they wouldn't have celebrated that so much. But at this time, enlightenment and light were always kind of themes for intelligence and like knowing things. Yeah. And darkness and night was often used as a metaphor for not knowing things, right?
Right.
So Queen of the Night, sometimes it's pretty obviously not like exactly night, like nighttime and stars, but often people think it has to do with like a woman being
non-enlightenment values.
Yeah, because like when you go to these enlightened things, they would put a mask over your head and they would bring you in dark, and usually they'd pull the mask off or the blindfold off, and they'd have you in front of a chandelier or a candle, or not a candle, but like a fire, something very bright,
as they did in the Magic Flute.
Yeah, because then you're enlightened, you know, because and so this dark and light stuff today, people kind of think like, you know, like sun power, night power, like some anime shit, but it probably was very, very like obviously metaphorical for
but it's also probably not an accident that it is the woman who he chose to be the representation of non-enlightenment.
Yeah.
That's probably not probably not a coincidence. You know, people make a big deal about the Monostos race thing, right?
Yeah.
But I think Mozart in that case was actually showing something quite enlightened about it by his aria, saying, "Look, I'm a man still.
Yeah,
I'm still a man." Mm-hmm. Making that point, and I think that is more enlightened than how he chose to represent the non-enlightenment ideas with the woman. Mm-hmm. And also that she embraced it. Like you said, she kind of embraced that she's not, that the women can't grasp or comprehend these complex ideas.
Yeah.
But I don't know, so enlightenment, of course, is maybe the best thing. The Enlightenment is basically the best thing to fucking happen to society.
Yeah, sure.
Ever. Mm-hmm. The value of reason over superstition and just arbitrary power structures like nobility and class power structures. I mean, the placing the value on somebody's ability to reason and their intellectual worth rather than the color of their skin or their place in society. That's the important thing. That's good. But they don't really do it in this piece.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily say why her ideas, why her ideals are less good than his.
Yeah.
Which, had they enumerated that, I would have been on board.
Yeah, that's the problem I have every time I see the Magic Flute, is I feel like it's the outline of something that didn't go quite as deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we're told this whole time that it's fucking deep as hell, right? Yeah, deep to Masonic values, but Masonic values are not necessarily the deepest or more correct than anything else. It was kind of treated as this, this thing that we've discovered, right? But that was also. They were placing value on Enlightenment values, right? Yeah. But they were still kind of buying into this human need for ritual and mystery, right? Which, if you're really a student of the Enlightenment, you should take that and judge it critically.
Yeah, sure.
Which wasn't necessarily being done in this piece.
Yeah, and her character, I think there was a lot, like, it could have been, like we said earlier at the beginning of the podcast, that her character has like the most depth of all the other characters, I think, like, and this stuff. But in her character, I mean, of course, all the characters, but hers too, there was more room for exactly like what you've talked about, more development. Like, why are her ideas so crazy? Like, why is Zarastro so good if he's a cult leader and whipping people?
It goes
and shit
beyond
like that. You know?
What are her ideas? What
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, what are her ideals? Like,
Yeah.
we don't have enough information to make the decision. And that's how I always feel about this, because people focus on the fact that she's after her daughter and stuff like that. There's a lot of superficial information there.
It seems
but
to
like
me
there's a lot of that backstory missing.
Right.
The husband, like who is he? You know, like who were you before you were the queen of the night?
Why can't we get a Magic Flute prequel?
Yeah.
Why can't we do that?
Exactly.
I would like to see that. I would like to see the how do you say postquill?
Postquill, like it's a sequel.
Sequel.
Postquill.
Prequel and postquill.
That makes the postcoital.
Precoitus, postcoitus.
Yeah, they got postcoital.
Postcoital.
Sequoital.
We're all over the place.
C-sex. Pre-sex, C-sex. That sounds like a Dr. Seuss book for adults. Pre-sex, C-sex, we sex, me sex.
B-sex is another tape for masturbation.
Yeah. We sex.
B-sex.
Me sex,
And we
sex.
B-sex, we sex. What would another one be?
Tree sex.
Tree sex.
B-sex.
B-sex. These are the type of sex that you can expect.
Yeah. It writes itself, man.
Dude, I read Dr. Seuss to my kids all the time, and afterwards I can't stop fucking rhyming.
Have you seen the guy rap Dr. Seuss?
Go to bed because your head will fall on the bed like a piece of lead.
It feels so good. But have you seen the guy rap Dr. Seuss? I'll send you a link. He does good. It's good. Fox and Socks, dude.
Fox and Socks, really?
Yeah. I don't remember the guy's name, otherwise I'd plug him. But he raps Fox and Socks, and it's pretty good. I watched the whole thing. You know.
By the way, we got a. Did we talk about the crazy the new composer who writes under a pseudonym of Bach?
Yeah.
Did we talk about him in the secret sponsor?
I can't remember. Dude.
Or in the normal one?
I think I know what you're talking about.
We got a correction.
Yeah.
Of course, I said CPE Bach, which is not right because that's Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach.
Yeah.
That's one of his actual sons. But this guy wrote under the pseudonym of PDQ Bach.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I just wanted to correct that real quick because, and I could I mentioned it, and I felt like a fucking idiot not remembering it. But check out his music sometime. It's fucking crazy.
What did we talk about last time? Choirs? It must have been the choir one.
It was choirs.
And then the secret sponsor was a lot of scat stuff. Maybe it was the main podcast.
I think it was. It must have been the main podcast.
The shit blends together, people.
If we had a producer, they would tell us right away.
But now, Queen of the Night, I tell you, a good character, a good villain, because the best villains are the ones where you're like, I kind of get what they're saying. Like,
I know it's just not fleshed out.
The way they're going about it is not right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like the Joker and that like all that shit. You know what I mean? It's like you shouldn't blow up a hospital, but like I kind of get why you're pissed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Shouldn't have shot that guy on the talk show.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But you are a person who is more
society did
complicated
forget
than
you.
just either good or evil.
Yeah. And so when you play villains, or when I see other people play villains, when they focus more on the fact that villains don't think they're evil, you know, it's always more interesting.
Absolutely.
No villain thinks they're bad. I mean, like we've talked about this before. We don't get into that. Some could, but most of them think they're actually the good guy.
It's actually a conversation that we should continue on the Secret Sponsor podcast.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
But that is absolutely true. Is that no villain quite thinks they're evil, and there has to be something to be understood, and to bring it back to to be understood about their psyche. And when we bring it back to the Queen of the Night, I think to myself, that first aria is moving.
Yeah.
I think she does care about Pamina.
Yeah.
I think she does.
I think
it's her daughter.
And some people get into the fact that, and sometimes I think you can overanalyze this stuff. You know what I mean? Like I heard a lot of people talk about the fact
like
that
we're doing now.
Well, we're having a conversation about it, but a lot of people talk about the fact that like like Queen of the Night, her arias are the only ones that are of a Baroque style, and like the Baroque style at that point was kind of old, so to ears of the people back then, it would have come across as sarcastic and ungenuine. You know what I mean? Because you're using this out of dated style.
But it's
just
not
like
totally Baroque. It's not ABA form or anything like that.
No, it's like opera seria. I can't remember, but like you know what I mean. Like, and then a lot of people think the Queen of the Night is more of a representation of the Austrian Masons, the blah blah. So it's like
unbelievable.
I do think like. Unless Mozart wrote that specifically, you know, like he wrote in a letter, like I wrote it in a Baroque style to be sarcastic. I don't know how much of that stuff you can actually say with confidence. You know what I mean? Maybe. But I as a person who writes music, have had people come to me and tell me that was so cool how you did it like that because of this. And I was like, nah. Like, no, I just thought it was cool.
Right.
You know, the reason I did it is because I bought something and I wanted to use it. You know,
that's interesting.
I put it in a song.
But that's the cool thing about art is that it's no longer exactly yours once you've done it.
Yeah, sure.
It's no longer really yours. But actually, I was just thinking, what composer could I approach to write a prequel that explains something about the Queen of the Night? And I thought, he's sitting fucking right there.
The prequel.
He's sitting right there. Have you seen Maleficent?
No, I tried to, but it wouldn't load, I think. So I gave up.
Well, look.
I haven't seen it.
I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie.
Yeah.
But the backstory.
Yeah. Okay.
But explaining why somebody becomes who they are.
Yeah.
It's just like it's kind of like the Joker also.
Yeah.
Where it's.
Yeah, exactly.
This person is depicted one way through this glass in the original Disney movie, Sleeping Beauty. Mm-hmm. And she is the best, maybe the best Disney villain ever.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
But there's more to it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to the Queen of the Night that I personally would love to see.
Man, because the journey is what makes it interesting. Like the newest Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, what makes that such a good movie to me is that you see him from just like a passive good person, like someone who would never do something wrong in society, to become extremely evil. And that journey, going on that journey with a character, whether it's a journey to evil or it's a journey to like being a hero, it's like that's what makes it interesting. And Queen of the Night, I could see a prequel where she was like happily married, a good person, happy, young Pamina, her husband, and then a chain of events happened that caused her to become evil. And when you see it, you're kind of like, I would have become evil too.
Yes, fucking yes.
Yeah, man.
Yes!
Yeah, man. There you go.
Listen to me.
Your mic technique's getting good. You got off the mic.
Listen to fucking me right now. This is important.
Yeah.
She was talking about her and her husband.
Yeah.
There's no way when I have a wife and I have children. It was one of the happiest days of my life whenever I found out that Dodo was pregnant. And when I was able to hold either one of my children for the first times in my arms, it's fucking magical. And there's no way that the Queen of the Night went through this transformative experience.
Yeah.
There's no way she went through that thinking, I'm going to use her to kill somebody someday. No, that's so oberflächlich.
Superficial.
That's so fucking superficial.
Yeah.
That it's uninteresting.
Yeah.
For her, I would love to see her hold Pamina in her arms and look at her husband and feel the contentment, feel the fulfillment that brings. And then to know that, and she would, if she were to see herself, if you could then pause her life and say, look what you're going to become.
Yeah.
Something evil. She would be horrified.
Yeah.
I'm convinced of something like that. That's an interesting story to see. That's more interesting than the story of the magic flute, actually, to me.
Yeah, totally.
Where did the magic flute come from? Also,
yeah.
Why does she all of a sudden just have this fucking magic flute?
Yeah. There's a bunch of like lore and like folklore and backstory to this stuff. You know,
it could be fulfilled, but it's not at all.
And also, Tamino and Papageno are probably the characters that are the most fleshed out. You know, it's like I actually don't need any more backstory to either of them.
No,
you know,
he's a fucking prince. I would like to know where it's from.
He's a prince, whatever. There's a ton of princes. I'd like to know the
geography and how he ended up in this other place.
And Papageno's a weird bird catcher. And Pamina's also like fleshed out. Actually, the Queen of the Night and Zarastro are also the characters lacking. Like, what's Zarastro's story? Who was he? Because in the prequel,
that's what I mean.
In the prequel, you would have the Queen of the Night and her husband, and he was definitely lurking in the corner.
That's what I mean.
He was probably more of an Iago. You know,
if I were to just see that, if I could press press a button and have it created.
Yeah.
There's no way this story wouldn't be completely flipped, where the Queen of the Night is a good person and he is just a usurping fuck.
Yeah, I would love to. Well, I wouldn't make him a usurper, but I would love to just have it like confusing at the end, like who the fuck is bad?
Yeah, but he's definitely going after power the same way she is.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no fucking way that they always say the people that you want in power are the people who don't want power.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah,
and there's no way that Zarastro didn't want power.
Yeah.
He still wants it now.
Yeah.
He's trying desperately to stop this person from going and taking his power. And because of that, he's willing to do, I'm sure, whatever it takes. The same way she's willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, it's just perspective, you know?
It's just perspective.
But what Mozart kind of, I think, tried to do in this, which, you know, I don't know if he did intentionally, but he basically was trying to do this like world, you know, like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, where you create a whole world.
Right.
And there's nothing harder than that.
Right.
There's nothing harder than creating a religion, geography, politics. You know what I mean? I've tried it before. Fuck. It gets too big immediately.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's exponential growth. Everything.
Yeah, like where does the prince come from? Where does Papageno come from? Papageno is like the whole hobbits and Hobbiton. You have to have this whole backstory for him.
Right.
The prince is then like the elves or like some other whole. They have their whole like you know what I mean?
Yeah. Does he come from a community of bird catchers, people who are dressing up like birds?
Yeah.
Or is he just some fucking freak out in the woods who's like, I found another found another fucking feather for my costume?
But you know what I mean? Like someone could take Magic Flute, give it a different name, and then make it a Netflix show.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You really could. And like, you know, like maybe a bit less bird catchery and like a bit more like, what was the one with the under his eye? What was that? The Handmaid's Tale?
Yeah.
Like a cult more like that. Like you could make it really cool. And then you could dig into all that backstory shit.
Dude, if we ever were to approach, if we ever had an idea that we could approach Netflix with, this is it.
Yeah.
We
well,
could
like,
write this.
They got Wagner's Ring, you know, like his.
You
where
should
it's like
cut
all
this
these
out
operas.
so that nobody else does it. We kind of need
I
to
would
do
rather
this.
somebody do it better than I can. You know what I mean? Like
We could write it.
Yeah, but it's oh my
We could
god,
fucking
how
write
much
it.
work! It would be a life's work. You know what I mean?
So?
but that would be cool if it existed like Wagner's Ring, where you had like the Magic Flute as the middle of like 3 or 4 operas.
No.
You know what I mean? It's you could. There's enough. There's way more than we discussed today. We focused most on Queen of the Night. Of course, Zarastro as the opposition is a big part of that conversation. But I mean, each of them could have their own opera. You know,
Absolutely,
you could
they
do a whole
probably
Papageno
should.
opera, and he could have his like full of like, and the whole opera would have this sing-songy kind of feel to it of the bird people.
Yeah.
You know, it could be cool. I think someone out there do it, man.
Get to it. No, not someone. You're a fucking opera composer.
My plate's pretty full with dick jokes and stuff. You know, a lot of dick jokes to make on this show.
There's seriously a lot of dick jokes to get out there.
I don't know, man. Should we tip it up or you got?
Let's tippity tip, tippity tip.
We can't both go up. Was there anything else you wanted to get to with Queen of the Night, or I think we covered it, huh?
Just how much I want to see. I'd like to know more about.
There's not enough. They didn't give us enough information.
I'm sorry, people. I feel like she's more sympathetic.
They Tarantino'd us. You know, they started at the middle of the story, but they never went back.
That's right.
You know,
Tarantino kind of invented Tarantino.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I can't really say that, but.
3 years earlier, you know?
Right.
We need one of those with Magic Flute. It's like it kind of started in that way, but then they never went back. That's what would have made the opera.
Dude, just fucking do it. I'm serious.
Just
Shut the fuck up.
All right, man.
And give us all what we want.
All right, but I'm gonna make it a musical. I'm sorry, everybody. Don't get pissed off. Let's take it
Magic flute. She's got the magic flute. Hey.
Not that kind of musical.
Oh yes, it's got to be like producers, beginning of producers kind of thing. Tap solo.
Queen of the Night.
You could write this in this afternoon.
Oh
It
yeah,
could be done.
just give me like some cocaine and like a room to myself.
It could be done.
Isn't that how Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote Cats? Didn't him and a bunch of actors go to like some like log cabin, do 2 weeks of coke, and then write Cats?
Sounds fucking right,
Someone
dude.
told me that once. Don't believe anything you hear on this show. All right, here we go. Let's
And I guess the movie was made by
a
bunch of random people on the fucking street doing coke.
I think.
Jesus,
no,
was
it would have been
bad.
better. Mike and I think we said on the podcast, but it's worth mentioning again. First movie I think either of us have ever walked out of. Or maybe I walked out of Glitter once.
Do you
but like,
That was during Christmas, dude.
Yeah.
So my family was gone because I had a bunch of fucking shows, and we. I was just lonely as shit.
Yeah.
Jared was lonely as shit, so we said, all right, let's go see a movie. And the only one that was even at all acceptable was fucking Cats.
Yeah.
And it was not at all acceptable.
No. It was like that or like some kids movie or something like that. I can't remember
Saddest
why.
Christmas
we
of all
had to watch
time.
Kids, but that we made it like 20 minutes, you know? And then we were just like,
And dude, before that we were watching the fucking Netflix made for Netflix Christmas specials.
Yeah.
What was it called? It was so bad.
oh, it was the one where the girl, we talked about it on our Christmas, but the girl goes home and it's like the Christmas letter or something.
Yes, something like that.
Yeah. And
She's like the heiress to a. She's like the fuck up heiress to a goddamn company.
A toy company, I think, of
Oh
course.
my God, was
And
it terrible?
I just remember Mike shutting it off or like pausing it and being like, dude, I'm really concerned that watching this is going to like make my acting bad.
Right?
Like I'm concerned that I'm absorbing this.
The acting was really bad.
That main
the
guy.
Show,
but the
he was
writing,
terrible.
and whoever wrote that shit is rich. That's what pisses me off. you
Yeah.
know?
That it really, really pisses me off. There was a blizzard where everybody had to go into the fucking hotel that she was bed and breakfast that she was staying at.
Yeah.
A blizzard
Homeless
that shut
people,
off
everybody.
the power,
Yeah.
and they went for a romantic walk in the woods that night.
Yeah, 30 minutes later.
30 minutes later, with
Yeah.
no
Oh my
perceivable new snow on the ground.
Yeah.
There were ice sculptures that they looked at that were completely fine.
It's like people try to follow a formula. And actually, the next episode, the Secret Sponsor one Mike and I will record next, we're going to talk about, like I said, characters. So like villains and protagonists, heroes, sidekicks, that type of shit. And you like the formula helps. The formula helps, but you can't just do the formula.
No.
You then have to have content. Just like using a symphonic formula, it's like great. Like bridge, chorus, whatever, like in pop music, but you have to, at the end of the day,
Has to be good, too.
There has to be content. All right,
Yeah.
let's tip it up here.
Tippy.
Shallow characters, no growth.
They didn't do just the tip with Pamina and the Queen.
It's
of the
weird,
Night.
man. Usually when we talk, you know, like we talk like why things happen, and people think it's a stylistic choice. But when we talk over just the tip, we always kind of have this like just the tip way of talking, and it's because it used to be an echo where you couldn't talk.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now it's artificial because I can talk clearly over
Oh,
that
that's
music.
right. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I never thought about it.
But you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I used to be like, how to, and I would do it because the echo. I couldn't talk, but now I can just
This
talk
is thanks
clearly.
to the secret sponsors, which, by the way, I think we should take a second to say that if you want to sponsor the podcast, you can do so by going to our website and following it to the Patreon page.
The donate tab.
There, you can donate monthly at whatever amount you want, and we are thankful as fuck for that stuff. It increases the quality of the podcast, and that money goes straight into the podcast.
Yeah, Mike and I just today made a list of stuff we need. Unfortunately, it just doesn't stop. You know, it's just that's not how businesses work. That's not how big creative projects work. It's not like, oh, I have everything and now I'm ready.
No.
You know, that's why a lot of people don't start things because they want to wait until everything's perfect.
But
it will
not
never
only
happen.
that, we have a particular artistic vision
Yeah,
for this,
yeah.
and we want to reach it so badly.
Mm.
But it unfortunately takes something like the support of patrons, and you guys are changing our lives with that kind of stuff. So
No.
thank you 1,000 times over.
No, really, really, thank you, because a lot of people also have been stepping up lately, increasing pledges.
That's right.
Also, they've been visiting our Buy Me a Coffee page, where you can give us $1. You know, you can do a one-time donation all the way up to thousands. You know,
Which,
there's no
by the
limit.
way, Jared
whatever
changed
you
it to
want.
buy us a beer.
Yes,
which
buy
was
me a beer now.
appropriate.
But you can use credit cards, you can use PayPal. We made it we're trying to make it happen as few clicks as possible. We've also had a lot of people buying stickers lately. I got some sticker orders I got to get out.
That's cool.
Buy some stickers and stick them all over the place.
And if you are particularly poor, which you most likely are because you are studying music or wanting to be a musician, the majority of the people who are listening, then just go give us a subscribe on YouTube and maybe watch us there, because we just recently went over 500 subscribers there,
Yeah.
which it's the smallest of all of our platforms, but we're happy to do that. And, you know, as soon as we get over a certain amount, we can monetize. So
Yeah.
whatever way you guys can support us, we're completely thankful for. So
Yeah.
get out there and do it, and thank you. In
Yeah, thanks so
advance.
much, everybody. All right, so today we're doing just the tip here.
Just the tip.
Hey, guys.
Of course.
I really liked the last podcast where the subject of AI came up, artificial intelligence.
That was maybe my favorite fucking podcast.
Yeah, I think she's talking about future of music here.
Yeah.
I've been reading a little bit on the topic by Sam Harris and listened to an interesting podcast with Joe Rogan and Elon Musk.
Of course.
What worries me is not that I won't be able to enjoy the music at all. Won't be able to enjoy the music. The AI will create. Sorry, I fucked it up because there's a crack in my screen. I'm sure that it will get to the level that I won't be able to tell a difference, and it will move me in all kinds of ways. My worry is that we will lose the skills of making music. I'm not saying this will happen, but it's another side to explore in this thought experiment. For example, the technology for self-driving cars is getting better and better to the point that soon cars will be safer drivers than us, and perhaps future generations will not need to learn how to drive cars. As technology gets better at doing things, for us, we lose the skills to do it ourselves.
Okay. I get it.
So as a society, we will lose the skill of making music.
Okay, here's why I'm not concerned about that in the tiniest bit. I don't believe that driving a car is built into the brain work of a human.
Okay.
But somehow music, somehow rhythm, somehow musicality is built into our brains as a general desire of the general population.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't think, I mean, look, you don't make most of the music you consume, which is a new thing in the history of humanity. Most of the time, if you wanted to consume music, you either had to go to a fucking concert or just do it yourself, and it's much, much easier to just do it yourself. Sing yourself a song.
Yeah, sure.
Pick up an instrument that you whittled out of a fucking fallen tree or something.
Fucking
take some
hyena
cat
bone.
guts and fucking stretch that shit out and then make something. That's
Right,
how
right,
we
right.
did it.
Yeah.
But now we don't make ourselves the majority of the music that we listen to, but funnily enough, we still, funnily enough,
Funnily, I guess it could be an adverb.
funny enough.
Maybe it doesn't
but
change as an
funnily
adverb.
sounds kind of like
a funnel.
a funnel.
Yeah.
Like a funnel.
It does sound
anyway,
weird.
Funny enough,
Right.
we still sing along
Yeah.
with all of our music.
Yeah, sure.
It's something that just happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a culmination of everything the human mind wants to do. It wants to predict. It wants to make order of things. You know what I mean? It's a lot of our senses being combined at the same time and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a lot of innate things about it. So I do agree with that completely. But I also think it's like, like a lot more people used to ride horses, but a lot of people still ride horses, and there's not any reason to ride horses anymore. It's
Right.
just a niche. Like
That's
I said
true.
on the podcast, it's just kind of, there's a niche of horse riding people, and it's very popular in Germany. Most people went to like a ponyhof, like some sort of horse farm when they were young.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of a big thing in Germany. And it's a skill that everybody had. If you couldn't ride a horse back in the day, it's like, what? You know, it'd be like not driving now.
Yeah.
But nobody gives a shit that we can't ride horses now. But there are a small faction of people that still like to do it. As like I said on the podcast, I think human music will just be a niche. There's people that will think it's important.
I guess so, but nobody just finds themselves all of a sudden riding a horse. You find yourself all of a sudden humming music.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying.
I mean, you remember it. Music's interesting because you can hear a whole symphony orchestra in your head if you want to.
Yeah.
You can just hear it.
Yeah, but my humming is a lot less often now because I used to hum when I would like walk and wait for the bus, but now my Bluetooth headphones are so easy to put on that I still hum if I'm washing dishes or something like that. You know what I mean? Or I'm taking a shower. But it's been dramatically reduced over the years as it gets easier to like headphones on, turn on, music, playlist, boom. You know?
Yeah, but come on. If you're listening to fucking...
I'm not saying it'll be gone, but I'm just saying it will become less and less and less.
I guess so, but when I listen to Michael Jackson,
yeah.
I'm saying, because I'm bad.
Oh, yeah. I get it.
I'm fucking script.
Yeah, you want to interact with
doing
it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
interacting
I see,
with
I
it,
see.
which means that the impulse didn't necessarily go away, even though I wasn't the one making the music.
Okay, perfect point. No, it's a very good point. It's a very good point that there is something about, like, I don't want to be passive.
Yeah.
Most people, alone in their car, they want to sing along. They want to participate.
Whether they're good or not.
Yeah, there is something about wanting to participate in music that has nothing to do with the accessibility or the sound of it. You're right.
And I think that the people who have a natural talent for it.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to. I mean, there are people with amusia, which, by the way, is the is the technical term for people who are really, really tone deaf.
Okay.
That can't do it, or they don't want to do it, or it like causes them a physical sensation of pain to listen to music, which that exists.
Crazy.
Right? There are people like that, but they are such a tiny fraction of the population, it's not even worth talking about, right? Everybody, we can say, has the impulse to do it, but then there are going to be people with talent who also have that impulse, and then whoop, they're gonna need to make that fucking music. And I don't think that just because a computer is making it, that those people that will somehow delete those people's impulse to want to participate and want to do it as well, because they have a natural talent for it.
Yeah, very, very, very insightful. I agree completely. Yeah. No, it's true, because no matter whether the music's like robotic or not, it doesn't matter. People from a very young age, like babies and children, want to participate. It's very easy to get a child to sing along.
Absolutely.
That's why a lot of classes, successful like kindergarten things, are taught with music.
Well, not only that, but then we could bring in the topic of music therapy. And for instance, like people who stutter.
Yeah.
Often there are different ways to get people to do different overcome these I guess you could call them maladies, right? Like a stutterer will oftentimes not stutter if they sing something. You saw it in the King's Speech. It's I thought it was fascinating there, but it's absolutely true. When people make their speech more sing-songy, it's because speech is produced in a different part of the brain than singing is, than music is, right? So if you can take the idea of speech and move it to a different part of the brain that is not necessarily affected by the malady the same way, which I don't know if malady is the right word, but that's the word I'm fucking using.
Yeah,
right now, so
we get what you're talking about. We get what you're talking about.
If you move it to a different part of the brain that is not affected by it, then you can somehow get over it by just making it musical and then decreasing the musical value of it to the point that it is almost indistinguishable from speech.
Yeah, sure.
Like you could. That's why recitative sounds kind of like speech, is because they took. It's still in a musical form, but they sort of boiled it down so that it's basically the same pace as speech.
Yeah.
But in a musical. Now you could boil it down more, which I kind of think is the way that it would end up happening in a musical therapy. In a musical therapy setting. The reason I bring this up is because it seems to be somehow hardwired into that fucking brain of ours.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
It's not something that could necessarily go away. But you bring up AI cars, right?
Yeah.
Or she brought up AI cars. There would definitely be. I mean, already we see people saying these fucking electric cars are ballless, soulless automobiles, and I want American, like Thunderbird kind of stuff, which I get that. They want to drive for themselves until they die, period. That's not an impulse that's going to go away. It's kind of weird because...
Well, I think a lot of those people will die out, though, honestly.
Maybe.
Because I guarantee when the train happened, when horses happened, when computers happened. I mean, in my life, I saw it with computers. I mean, I remember being young, and it's like people were against email, and they were like, no, I want a paper. I want to put a paper in a binder. I don't want my bank records online. I don't want a bank statement. You know what I mean?
Okay, can I try to refute myself for a second? Because I just had a thought.
Yeah, man.
All right?
Yeah.
So I was just thinking about how when we...
I'm going to have a donut while you're going.
These people with the fucking muscle cars, right?
Yeah.
They want muscle cars because of the feeling it gives them, to have that loudness, that rumbling. But the performance of electric cars is like incredible. A Tesla Model S competes regularly with a $500,000 supercar.
Yeah.
So it could be that the new technology gets so good with a car that it's just so much better than the other cars
that people have to accept it.
That it's not that they would have to accept it, is that
they would want to.
Yeah, they want to. There's no other choice. And I thought to myself, what if music can and will get that way? What if computers start writing it in a way that we can't even dream of yet?
Yeah, sure.
And that we sit
I
here
see. And the music's better than what we could ever do.
and it's better than we could ever do, and we'll just forget about Wagner or Mozart. Fuck that.
No, a valid
That's
point.
possible.
And I kind of touched on it too in that episode of the podcast. I really think that the interactive quality that you talked about is something that they're going to play on, you know?
Yeah.
Like with movies and stuff, like I want to see this movie by this composer with these actors, and then it just creates a digital version of that.
Yeah.
But they already have instruments. I saw it on Instagram where it's just like a metal piece, but you can kind of touch it, and it basically randomly makes music, but it reacts to the force and what your fingers are doing. So there's not really a rhyme or reason to it, but you feel like you're making music.
Right.
And I'm sure they would have music that like is created in the moment based on what you're singing. Like it would change the key and like auto-tune to your voice. Yeah.
What if it reads, what if the AI gets to the point where it can read your emotions or the emotions that you want to feel in that moment and creates
it creates
music.
a soundtrack for you.
Exactly. Creates a soundtrack for you that touches you emotionally. There's nothing to say that music couldn't affect the brain in such a strong way that it couldn't create hallucinations.
Yeah, maybe it unlocks the 99% we're not using, you know?
Right.
They'll make computer music that is so good it unlocks the parts of our brains we're not using, and we've evolved because of it.
Which, by the way, I don't mean to be pedantic or anything like that, but that's all complete bullshit that we only use 10% of our brain.
I know.
We basically use all of our brain.
I know.
All the time.
I was making a joke, but no, it's true. It's really good stuff to think about.
Who wrote it? Who wrote it again? Who wrote the thing?
I closed it, but thank you for writing.
No, it was a good question, but don't fucking worry. I think
Mariana.
Thank
you for writing us in. No, it's a good question, but no, valid points. I do think that interacting with music is a big part of us. It's hilarious what you said. If like AI composed a soundtrack to your life, you know what I mean? And like you'd be in your apartment with your speakers on, it'd be like playing some happy music. Your girlfriend comes home, she's like, "Who's Jessica?" And then it's like, ba 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 ba. You know what I mean? It's like, I just heard your music, man. Like,
what was that? You can't lie.
Yeah, you can't lie.
It's malfunctioning.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't necessarily mean create a soundtrack. What I meant is
just fucking with
that
you.
it fucking plays something that before you even recognize that you're feeling it, that it's making you feel some fucking way.
And I don't know if you guys have ever used auto-tune before. Like a lot of singers like, fucking auto-tune. Do it sometime. It's fucking fun as shit.
Yeah?
It's fun as shit because you're just like, ah, like making some goat noises, and then all of a sudden you're just like, yeah. It's like, it sounds really good, and it's fun to do because it's like when you play an electric guitar, right? By itself, unplugged in, lamest sound in the world. Pang, like just lame. But you plug that thing into an amp and you got this Jimi Hendrix coming out of it. You feel really cool doing it. But the origin of the sound you're making is pang, you know? But you don't think about that shit. And I imagine if they had an AI where like you had like you know, because these like my headphones I have, the microphone's so good it can pick up my voice, like car stuff.
Yeah.
Where basically it picked up your voice, played it through the speakers, but made it sound really cool. That would be fun because you get the feeling of singing and then the sound of it being cool.
So you're saying that
I'm just saying music would aid participating in it.
So you're saying it will give people with no talent the ability to feel like they're talented.
Well, just like if you're in the car, it's just like a function on your car. You could do like I want to be the star, and then it will like basically auto tune your voice, like bump up the singer's formant, clean up your vowels, and so it's like you're like you know I will always love you, and then like it comes out sounding fucking awesome,
fucking Whitney.
You still you get the feeling of belting your heart out, but you get the satisfaction of it satisfying your ear. I mean, people would go nuts for that.
There would not be a car innovation in all of history that would cause so many deaths. that one. Just
but cars are driving themselves. Fucking, you're just fucking.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
See,
every fucking car would become
together.
like a big stage. So hey, look, the only reason you would have to fucking worry.
Yeah.
Actually, you don't have to worry because if it happens the way we were just talking about, the music that they produce will be so good that you wouldn't even want to listen to the old shit.
People cared about cars until they got in when they're like, fuck, this is better.
But she
car
mentioned,
doesn't shit.
If you guys want to know more about this, Sam Harris talks about this a lot, and it's really good. And Joe Rogan has had a bunch of good people on his podcast about
So
it.
check that stuff out. Yeah, Mike and I just try to, you know, spark the flame that ignites the fire.
Why is it so fun talking about that? Why is it so fun talking about that fucking subject about AI?
I don't know. It's exciting somehow. It scares some people, but I'm excited by it.
Scared.
I'm half-masked over here.
Don't
be scared.
Don't be scared.
Anyway, all right. That's it for us for today. Mike and I are going to take a little pause here, and then we're going to
Pause.
record the Secret Sponsor podcast about the different type of characters you have in literature. So take care of yourselves. We'll see you in 1 week.
Get the fuck out.